1 year ago today, Nebraskans were hoping for a miracle after an explosion at a Fremont wood pellet facility. Could anyone survive that devastation?
Our fears were later confirmed when we learned 2 young girls and their father were killed in this blast.
Last summer, 32-year-old Dylan Danielson and his 2 young daughters, 8-year-old Faya and 12-year-old Haven, died in the explosion. One of the lawsuits filed against the manufacturing facility states on the morning of the explosion, Danielson brought the girls to Horizon Biofuels and they were waiting in the break room while he was working. Today, the community is reflecting on the tragedy and what followed. Our Sydney Babb is live in Fremont to show us how the community is pulling through today. Sydney?
Just over a year ago, that Horizon Biofuels building stood just behind me here. Today, you can see that building is gone. Just for the last month, they've demolished that building, removing with it the painful reminder of the lives lost. State officials found that the explosion was caused by a dust fire. 3 people, including 2 children, were in the building at the time and did not survive. It took over 24 hours for first responders to recover the bodies of 8-year-old Faya, 12-year-old Haven, and their father, 32-year-old Dylan Danielson. That day and for some time after, the community rallied together to support everyone working to resolve the tragedy. Tyler Runyon is an associate pastor at Fremont Nazarene Church. She spoke about why their church immediately started gathering supplies for first responders.
When there's support and camaraderie, that just helps people. I believe we're created for community, and so whenever we have the opportunity to put that into practice, it can help people walk through dark things.
Today, she says the community is closer and they understand the importance of support when times are good and bad. Live in Fremont, I'm Sydney Babb, First Alert 6.
Sydney, thanks for following up on that a year later. Now, this is a story our First Alert 6 Investigates team has followed closely since that initial explosion. In the months since the tragic blast, we have a better idea on what went wrong. A dust fire is believed to have triggered the explosion. OSHA cited the company in February, fining them about $147,000. Months before the blast even happened, a complaint was filed by a nearby business. They expressed concerns about the amount of dust from Horizon Biofuels making its way onto cars in their parking lot. We even saw photos of the dust collecting in the street. At the time of the inspection, the document shows the biofuels plant was shut down due to extreme temps and maintenance issues. First Alert 6 Investigates also found Horizon Biofuels was fined by OSHA more than a decade ago, 2012, for dust control problems. The mothers of the 2 little girls who passed away each filed lawsuits against the facility earlier this year. Both are in the early stages of the court process in Dodge County.